I am Anne, married for 3 years, living with my kind husband. We were very close, but we didn't have any children yet. We were both looking forward to the day when we would, at least until the accident. Please listen to this unbelievable story. My husband was kind to everyone, not just me. My parents also adored my husband. I have a sister who is a career woman. My husband got along with my sister, who was only interested in work. But suddenly, his work became very busy. He started coming home late and he started working on his day off. He seems to have been put in charge of a team. And he would not let go of his cell phone because he had always been in touch with these people. Looking back, people would have said, "Isn't that suspicious?" But I didn't suspect anything and just worried about my husband's health. Then, my sister, who lived by herself in her own apartment, decided to move out because of her new job. She wanted to look for furniture that would fit her new home, so I decided to take her to the shop in my car. On the day of the shopping trip, which was a Saturday, I got called by a boss I had to go to my office. This was the only day off for my sister. As I was pondering what to do, I realized that my husband happened to have his day off today. My husband has been busy with his work lately, but I decided to ask him to cover for me. Seeing the trouble I was in, he said he would be fine with it. He said, "Alone with your sister? It's a little awkward, but it's all right. My car is being repaired now, so can I borrow yours?" I was grateful to him for his offer, and I was able to go to my office to deal with the problem there. It was the first time for my husband and my sister to go out alone together. I wondered if they were doing well, if they had found the right furniture, and so on. When I was done taking care of the trouble at work, it was dark, and I pulled out my cell phone to meet my husband and my sister for dinner. That's when I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Am I speaking to John's family member?" It was a stranger. "Yes, I'm his wife." "This is the police. Your husband has been in an accident." The man, who identified himself as a police officer, informed me that the car my husband was driving had been involved in an accident and that he and his female passenger were unconscious. I don't remember what I did when I received the news, but I remember rushing to the hospital. I told the emergency receptionist my name and was taken to the ICU. I could see through the glass window that my husband was connected to various tubes and wrapped in bandages. I was anxious about what was going to happen to him. My mother, who lived far away from us, eventually arrived, and we spent an anxious night together. In the midst of our anxiety, the police told us about the accident in detail. He told me that John had been driving on a road with clear visibility when he was hit by a car that ran through a red light. The other driver was seriously injured and was being treated at the same hospital. However, the driver testified that John's car had been acting strangely before the accident, and the police were investigating the possibility that the husband had fallen asleep at the wheel. Within a few days, my husband and my sister regained consciousness and the doctors did some tests. My mother and I were called in to hear the result of these tests, and we were told that although they would not die, they would probably be left with some kind of disability. Still, my mother and I were happy that they were alive, and we thought they would recover to some extent through rehabilitations. Of course, we didn't tell them about the possibility of their disabilities. My mother and I only told them positive things and took care of both of them. My mother took care of my sister, and I looked after my husband. At first, my husband was in a state of shock from the accident. He was not feeling so well. He was also concerned about the trouble he had caused to me, my mother, and my sister. But as time went by, my husband, who had been kinder to me, started to gradually change. He was frustrated with his leg that didn't move easily. The hospital treatment and the fact that he had to quit his job, all of which seemed to get on his nerves, and he couldn't control his frustration. Still, I went to the hospital because I knew how he felt and wanted to support him. One day, a police detective came to the hospital. He told me that he had found out something about the accident. It seemed that the brake oil in my car was involved in the accident had leaked, so I might have had an accident sooner or later. He said that might be the reason why the car was acting strangely before the accident. The woman who crashed into my car was also not doing well. Her mother came to apologize. It was the first time that I met her. Since then, I felt that my husband's attack on me increased. He was angry that I could move, while he couldn't. He also seemed annoyed that I was only at the hospital for a short time because of my work schedule. He consistently ordered me around and vented his anger on me when I didn't get what he wanted. He threw things at me, complained about his hospital room, and even complained when I went out to buy my own lunch. The demands were getting worse and worse. I certainly felt sorry for him, but I have to work to make ends meet. And there were many things I had to do, such as contacting the police and communicating with the hospital. I don't even have time to breathe. My husband's attitude was getting unbearable. I could see that I was being driven into the corner. My sister seems to be in a similar state of mind, and my mother became more and more exhausted. I heard that my sister's demands on my mother, who had no work, were even worse. When I couldn't go to the hospital, both my husband and my sister seems to have heard that they would remain paralyzed even with the rehabilitation. Then there was the fact that my car's brake oil had been leaking. My sister said, "Hey, I heard your car was leaking oil. You were responsible for your car's maintenance. I can't work and I can't get my body back to normal because of it. Mom looks irritated and your husband is in the same condition. You are responsible for taking care of me and your husband for the rest of your life." My sister blamed me so hard that I was surprised and called my mother, who told me that my sister had been in this mental condition for a long time. My mother told me that she was too tired to go to the hospital. Still concerned about my husband, I went to the hospital. When I didn't see him in the hospital room, I found him with my sister in the common room. The visiting hours were almost over, and they were sitting alone together in the otherwise empty common room. "Hey, I heard that if you only taken the car in for inspection, all of this might not have happened." My husband was glaring at me. "Yeah, but..." "You are the reason why your sister and I are in this mess. The insurance will pay for it. And you're going to have to take care of us for the rest of your lives. Remember that?" As soon as I heard those words, something snapped inside me. "Since when are you so close to my sister?" "What do you mean? You don't come over that often. And your mom texted your sister to say that she can come for a while." Since we both can't leave this place nor can we walk, what's wrong with talking to your husband? My husband and my sister seems to be ganging up on me. I know, right? I asked sarcastically. You guys hadn't seen each other for a long time before the day of the accident, right? What are you talking about? I'm talking about you taking care of us. You know that? My husband was ignoring my question. My sister didn't even look at me, but she nodded when my husband said that she'd take care of them both for the rest of their lives. I didn't expect to get an answer, but I kept on asking anyway, hoping that they might understand how I was feeling. I wonder if the person whose car hit you is getting better now, I said. How should I know? She ran into us when the traffic light was red. It's just unbelievable. That's right. You can't imagine how scary it was. We really need to make sure we can get some compensation from her. And I was so close to getting a promotion too. If I didn't cut in, they would just keep on complaining. So I think it's time to expose the truth. There's something I need to let you know. What? First of all, I had my car inspected before the accident. Did you? Then the dealer should be sued. There's no way they didn't notice the brake oil was leaking. I know, right? So no, right after the accident, the police called me. They wanted to know what the cause of the accident was. So they asked if they could take a look at my drive recorder. But that old drive recorder doesn't record any sound. And it also doesn't start recording until after the accident, so you can't get anything out of it. I see. It's just like I thought. You didn't know that I had gotten a new drive recorder? My sister looked up in surprise. What? I also installed another camera for the inside of the car. Her face grew paler and paler. You know, the drive recorders nowadays can start recording with even a slight shake of the car. The police contacted me and they said they had seen the data. My husband looked confused and my sister looked so pale that she almost collapsed. You were up to something, correct? I confronted her. What? What do you mean? You did something to the car? My husband was panicking. Oh, do you address my sister like that? You talk to her as she were your girlfriend. Oh. My husband stopped talking, apparently in panic. I told you earlier that a slight vibration would start the recording. And so many intimate scenes between the two of you were recorded. I was so embarrassed when the police asked me if it's my sister who was in the car with my husband. The blood drained from my husband's face. You guys had been having an affair all this time. You had been completely fooled. Not knowing what to do, my husband started blaming my sister. That Mary isn't the only one at fault here. At the moment, the mother of the woman who had crashed into my car came to the hospital room. I had asked her to come over. Don't you have anything to say to her? My sister was taken back by the sudden appearance of the small-gowned woman. Whoa, who's this? She's the mother of the woman who crashed into you. She should be the one paying for all this. Surprised by the woman's tears, my husband stopped talking. She's the mother of the woman who crashed into you. She's also the mother of the woman who was your victim. Her name is Alice. I'm sure you know who she is. Hearing the woman's name, my husband turned completely pale. And now my sister panicked. What? What is this? Do you know the woman who was driving the car? That means she knew it was your car and she crashed into it? Who is she? Since my husband seemed at a loss for words, I decided to tell my sister what was going on. She was having an affair with John. He had told her that he would get a divorce soon, but he didn't. So, when Alice lied to him that she had gotten pregnant with his baby, John told her to get an abortion. After that, she couldn't get in touch with John, and she wanted to hurt me because she wanted to take revenge. Wait, so that means... Right, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't believe I let something like this ruin my life. My sister groaned. The reality is that there is nothing you can do about it, no matter how much you cry or how much you scream. Also, it's not as though this happened to a completely innocent person. I put all my feelings into my words. Now, you understand what happened. You two were having an affair behind my back, and Mary was trying to get me injured or dead by tweaking the brake oil of my car. But then she got in the car herself and got herself mixed up in an accident. I am the victim here. I was going to make an effort not to divorce you if you apologized to me and confessed everything to me during your hospitalization. But you never gave me an indication that you were sorry. On the contrary, you treated me terribly. Do you remember how we wrote our divorce papers right after we got married? I never thought I'd use them, but I submitted the paper today. So you and I are no longer married. Bye. Having said all that I needed to say, I left the dark and quiet hospital. I felt free, having been able to release the resentment that I had been bottled up inside me. But my mother seems to be greatly shocked when she found out the truth. Not only was she shocked by my sister's infidelity, but she was also weighed down by the fact that she would have to take care of her physically disabled daughter all by herself. I've cut off my relations with John and Mary, but I couldn't leave my mother to take care of everything by herself. So I talked with the person responsible for the accident, made the necessary apologies, and asked her to compensate my sister, who was involved in the accident by mistake, so that my mother would not be troubled. 2 years have passed since then. My husband and I are divorced, and I am living on my own. Back then, John and I were considered to be a close couple, so the divorce came as a surprise to my coworker. After that, more and more men approached me to ask for advice. I thought it was that I was going through that phase when divorced women suddenly seem appealing to men. But the image of my ex-husband remained in the back of my mind, and I could not quite bring myself to date anymore. Then I studied hard for a certification exam in order to build up my career. I even joined an online business school that I could join after work. When I was married, I hadn't imagined that I would want to do something like that. I never envied my sister who had been a career woman, and I didn't think I would ever aspire to be one. But there was me naturally aiming for that. Life is strange, I thought. Since then, my ex-husband has returned his parents' house, but he seems to be treated as a burden to his family. His relatives blamed him for his bad behavior and the way he treated me, and I hear that he is not doing very well mentally, and that he has been acting violently, causing lots of trouble to those around him. My sister also returned to her parents' house, but she too became mentally ill and continued to behave like an egoist. My mother, exhausted, used my sister's savings and the accident compensation to put my sister in a caring home. She asked me about it beforehand, but I had no reason to oppose it, so I told her she could do whatever she wanted. If I had not noticed anything at that time, I would have been like a slave for both of them for the rest of my life. I shudder to think of that. I passed the certification exam I had hoped for and was transferred to a department where I could use my skill to good use. And I became close with the teacher who was running the online business school. And we are soon to be married. Not with someone who is just kinder to everyone, but with someone who is very kind to me. When I get home late from work, he would come back early to prepare dinner for us. I will cherish this small happiness. Such were the thoughts I wished upon the stars, and I hurried back home to where my partner waited for me.